What follows that two-chapter prose introduction are cycles of speeches that are given by Job and Job's friends. Complex, beautiful poetry, difficult to translate, really, really impressively put together. Job opens and breaks the silence after this week of sitting with his friends, and then each friend tries to respond with a speech of their own. At the beginning, it sort of seems as though people are actually listening to one another and trying to respond to the things they say. But by the end, I think people are just sort of talking past each other and nobody's listening anymore. But let's look at Job chapter 3, at one of our three darkest passages of Scripture in the whole text, by the way. In the Old Testament, I would put Jeremiah 20, Job 3, and Psalm 88 as our three darkest passages of the Hebrew Bible. So this is a number 2 on my list as we look at it. After this, Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. Now, just stop right there real quick. You are forbidden by Torah to curse your parents, and you are forbidden by Torah to curse God. Doing either of those things is punishable by death. But never underestimate we humans and our ability to get around the rules. So you're not allowed to curse God. You're not allowed to curse your parents. So what do? You curse the day you were born and thereby implicate both God and your parents. It's really a pretty brilliant move. Jeremiah does the same thing when he's upset. So he curses the day of his birth. Job said, "Let the day perish on which I was born, on that and the night that said a man-child is conceived. Let that day be darkness. May God above not seek it, or light shine on it." I want you to notice the way that's being phrased. Let that day be darkness. It's exactly the same grammatical construct as "let there be light" that you get at the beginning. This is not the only creation association that you get in Job chapter 3, or I guess in this case, anti-creation. He's using several allusions to creation, but he's taking the side of chaos as we go through this text. And recognize that as we pick up in verse 5. Let gloom and deep darkness claim it. Let clouds settle upon it. Let the blackness of day terrify it. That night let thick darkness seize it. Let it not rejoice among the days of the year. Let it not come into the number of the months. Yes, let that night be barren. Let no joyful cry be heard in it. Let those who curse it, who curse the sea, those who are skilled to rouse up Leviathan. Let the stars of its dawn be dark. Let it have hope for light, but have none. May it not see the eyelids of the morning. Real quick, I want to talk about Leviathan. If you have a study Bible that tries to connect Leviathan to crocodiles or dinosaurs, please don't read that study Bible anymore. Go buy a better study Bible. Anytime you see Leviathan in the Old Testament, what you see is an association of primordial chaos. In fact, the word Leviathan is very similar in structure to the Canaanite god of the deep, of chaos, Lotan. Anytime you see Leviathan, you're seeing a personification of primordial chaos that God defeated at creation, crashed the heads of the dragon. We see in Psalm 74. If you remember your survey class, the Tiamat and Marduk story from Babylon, where Marduk destroys the evil watery chaos dragon. Leviathan is that Hebrew equivalent of that evil watery chaos dragon. Job is not wanting to rouse up crocodiles or want to talk about dinosaurs. When he talks about Leviathan, he is wanting chaos to come back. He's wanting to rouse up chaos. Basically, we have team creation, we have team chaos. God is typically on team creation, and Job has decided he's on team chaos. He wants creation to unmake itself. In other words, Job is saying, I hurt so bad. My suffering is so bad. It's not just that I wish I'd never been born. Jeremiah wishes he'd never been born. Job is not just saying, I wish I'd never been born. Job is saying, I wish creation would unmake itself. I wish nobody else had been born either. My suffering is so great, creation doesn't deserve to continue. Creation doesn't deserve to continue on. I want God to lose that battle with primordial chaos. That needs to be the way life needs to go. This is obviously irreverent and maybe even heretical and maybe even blasphemous. But Job is expressing this earnest, honest, laid bare kind of emotion that we see in the lament psalms as well, though he may take it a little bit further. And this is too much for the pious friends to handle. You know, his friends have been sitting there; they've been supporting him for a week. But much like you and me, someone starts talking about God like this, and you're gonna be provoked. One of the really, I want to say, insidious parts of the book of Job is as you read it, the friends make a lot of sense. And usually when they're asking questions, we want to agree with the friends, even though we know from the very beginning that Job is blameless and upright, and we know if we paid attention in class, he's the good guy. So it's really brilliant the way it does it. But Eliphaz has had too much, right? You can't start arguing for Team Chaos in front of Eliphaz, not a good follower of Yahweh like Eliphaz is. So he says, Eliphaz responds in chapter 4, verse 7. I'm just going to do selections. We can't do the whole book of Job, obviously. Think now, who that was innocent ever perished, or where were the upright cut off? As I have seen, those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same. By the breath of God they perish, by the blast of his anger they are consumed. So basically Eliphaz is, well, as I've looked at the world, folks typically get what's coming to them. What goes around comes around. You lead a life that's full of sin, sooner or later it's going to come back to bite you. So obviously, the implication being, something going on in your life. Bildad, after Job responds, you make sense, but I know it's not true. Bildad the Shuhite responds, how long will you say these things? And the words of your mouth be great wind. Does God pervert justice? This is what I meant. Does God pervert justice? Well, of course God doesn't pervert. We want to agree with Bildad. No, God doesn't pervert justice. Of course not. Does the Almighty pervert the right? If your children, or when your children sinned against him, he delivered them into the power of their transgression. Now, we already know that his kids didn't die because they were sinful. We knew that his kids died because that was part of what was being taken away by Hasatan God. But Bildad has presumed that his kids died because they were sinful, and so God killed them. If you seek God and make supplication to the Almighty, if you're pure and upright, surely he will rouse himself for you and restore you to rightful place. If you seek out God earnestly, humbly, righteously, God will restore you. That makes a lot of sense. We just know that he's the wrong guy. Zophar the Naamathite, though, for me, gets the worst, the award for worst pastoral care. I mean, if we're giving that out, worst advice you can give someone in a time of suffering, I think Zophar wins. He says, should a multitude of words go unanswered? Should one full of talk be vindicated? Should your babble put others to silence? And when you mock, no one puts you to shame? You say my conduct is pure and I'm clean in God's sight. But oh, that God would speak and open his lips to you, that he would tell you the secrets of wisdom, for wisdom is many-sided. Know that God exacts of you less than your guilt deserves. So Zophar's point is, quite frankly, you're getting off easy. You've lost all your wealth and all your health. You're covered in head to toe from bed sores. And you know what? You probably should say, lucky, lucky you. That wins. Worst Hallmark card ever. Basically, the friends say, look, people who are innocent don't suffer. The guilty suffer. All the friends agree that Job is guilty of something, some great sin for which he's now being punished. Eliphaz does at one point suggest that God's trying to make him a better person through the discipline of suffering, and Job should feel especially blessed, I'm sure. Because, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Apparently, Eliphaz has decided to adopt Kelly Clarkson's approach to pastoral care. The friends cling to this theology that the wicked are punished and the righteous are blessed. And Job should live by faith. If he continues to live by faith, he'll be restored. Well, Job, throughout that entire cycle of speeches, maintains his innocence. He knows he's not perfect. He says so. But he also knows that he's not done anything to deserve this level of punishment. And you know what? We, the reader, know that too because we read chapter 1. We know maybe the friends are at a disadvantage. They didn't read chapter 1. We've read chapter 1. Blameless, upright, man who feared God. Job says, if there's a connection between punishment and guilt, I can't find it because I'm not guilty. And since Job believes he's innocent and knows he's innocent, and we know he's innocent, Job goes on to say, well, then God clearly destroys the innocent and the guilty, both. And a conspiracy seems to exist between God and the forces of evil. And Job goes on to give examples of God torturing the righteous and blessing the wicked as he looks at this world. In fact, God, who was once Job's friend, Job says, has now become my enemy. And we get to see that play on Job's name, his name Ayov, enemy or adversary. He does say he wants an opportunity to meet with God, to have a conversation, but he's frustrated by this because he wants God to recognize his innocence. He wants God to remind God that he's innocent. But Job says an audience with God is not going to fix the situation because even though I'm innocent, I can't argue my case in the presence of God. God is too big. God is powerful. God is majestic. And God, it's like, bringing a lawsuit against Walmart. You're going to lose. It doesn't matter if you're right or not. Walmart has too many lawyers, and you're going to lose if you try and do that. Well, God is the same way with Job. Job says, I'm innocent. I know I'm right. I'm never going to be able to make my case. Job wishes for, and I love what some translations have as an umpire. He wants somebody to stand between us, someone who can mediate this case, someone who can put a hand on both of us, argue my case compellingly to God, make the case that I'm innocent, and then God will see and God will know that I didn't do these things. So that's basically where we end up with the cycle of speeches is a Job going somewhere between faith and despair, frustrated by friends giving bad advice who presume to know how the world works and presume to know how faith works. And Job increasingly frustrated because in his experience, that's not the way things have happened.